I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute. You're watching Devil's Advocate. Thank you. I'm really excited about this one. Just a guilty pleasure for me. Now, you might not know it, but before I was all of this, I was a cartoonist. I mean, a lousy cartoonist. Oh, not a lousy cartoonist. I had a little strip that I tried to syndicate. It was a political version of Doonesbury, and it was a big success, as you know, because it's still in all the papers. So whenever I find guys that actually made a living doing cartooning, I'm just thrilled. Chuck Asay from Colorado Springs Gazette. I've watched your work for decades. Would that be the right way to put it?
Well, yeah, decades.
And
yeah.
Not bad. And nationally syndicated cartoonist Henry Payne from the Detroit News,
Yep.
and I see your stuff all over. I want to bring you guys together.
Since 1985.
Yes,
Yep.
Those of us who wanted to make a living as a cartoonist look at you people who actually have made a living and want to say to all you, screw you. I wanted that. You guys, you're now retired. You made a living doodling. This is not fair. There are other people out there who actually work for a living, and you were able to do this.
Well, I was blessed to be in a family where we just argued issues all of the time in my home. Everybody could draw. And so when I found myself in school, I found I was kind of the class clown, and I could draw, and I couldn't add or spell, and so I was just kind of forced into the field. And I think that that kind of background really helped me because I never take anything personal. I mean, people get mad at you, don't they, John?
Yeah. But the beautiful thing about cartoons is that on this editorial section, and that's where you guys make your bread and butter, people are arguing different ideas and different things, and they do it with all these words. Now, for those of us who are illiterate, that's a real pain. 600-word op-eds and house editorials and letters to the editor. For those of us who don't read so good, looking at a cartoon just says so much more. At least I think so. I mean, I see one simple cartoon gets a point across better than an op-ed or an article can.
No, I think that's a picture worth 1,000 words and all that. Although I tell you, I mean, I love the words too, and we can't survive without the words. I mean, as you know, John, I'm an editor of a publication as well, Michigan View, and I write those 600-word things that you do too.
I don't read those, but I read your cartoons.
And the thing is, I mean, being a conservative cartoonist as we are, there's so many stories out there that don't get publication, and you can't draw a punchline without a headline. And so really, I got into writing in this business as well.
You can't draw a punchline without a headline. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, a cartoon is a single rock. You throw it, and the audience has to sort of know what direction it's coming from, to begin with.
They need to know what you're talking about.
That's right. They need the background.
Now, if you, for instance, knew about Bill Clinton's sex scandal before everybody else did,
which I did,
you could do a wonderful cartoon on it. Nobody would know what you're referring to.
Exactly. I mean, in fact, that was the case in Washington, D.C.
And you were out there for a number of years.
I was there for a number of years. I was working for Scripps Howard, both as a reporter and as a cartoonist. And we knew about the Monica Lewinsky case, and nobody was reporting it. And in fact, that's how the Drudge Report got to be famous, as he started reporting that before the mainstream media would do so. And today,
forced the mainstream media to go with the story.
Well, in part, yeah, it sort of forced the issue, but certainly it sort of gave rise to this conservative media, which really benefits guys like Chuck and I today, because that gives us more material to deal with, because there are more stories out there as a result of Drudge and Fox News.
Explain how it works with editorial cartoons, in that you, for years, were down in Colorado Springs, working right there in the editorial offices. When I was a cartoonist, I never left my apartment, which was really good for my self-esteem and social life. But you're actually there among the reporters, among the folks. So there's a lot of chit chat. And I remember when I went down to visit one of the editors. Yeah, Dan Egemer, years ago, and he was the editorial editor. I went down and I was like, is Chuck here? Is Chuck here? And I expected that there would be this office, with a secretary in front and flowers arranged on the table, and there'd be this large drafting table. But instead, you're just on one little cubicle on a bench, just drawing this little thing. I was like, what the hell? This is Chuck Asay. You're supposed to. Anyway, tell me how the business works. So you get hired on salary to draw cartoons every day,
Right.
and then you can sell them as well, right?
Yeah, if you get syndicated, then they resell your cartoons to paper subscribers. And so you can make a pittance through the syndicate, and you can make a pittance, you know, by having a salary. And it's wonderful to work in the newsroom because everybody's liberal in there, except we have a conservative editorial page. So when I first started at the Gazette, we had a sign up, Dan Griswold did, that says, "You are now leaving West Berlin."
That's pretty good. Talk to me about being free marketeers, conservative cartoonists, because let's be honest, conservatives are not known for being able to express themselves in lighthearted ways or in funny ways or tell good stories. The left is great at that. I mean,
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live is king of that.
Right.
You know, late night talk show hosts are great at it. When it comes to humor and the right, our team is just not that good. And it shows there are very few political cartoonists that lean towards the free market.
Well, that's true, but I think that has more to do with journalism. Journalism's a left-wing profession. I think the right-wingers have great material. I mean, today, really, we're the anti-establishment today. I mean, we're the ones who are making fun of the President of the United States. We're the ones who are making fun of deals like Solyndra, about these deals going to big crony capitalists. I mean, I think we have tremendous material. And it's just a matter of finding outlets, really. There have just been so few outlets over the years. In my case, as a conservative editorial cartoonist, you kind of wait around for guys to pass away in order to for a position to open. I mean, there were really just you know, a half dozen.
I mean, how did you get the job?
Good.
I mean, you're with a huge newspaper in Detroit.
Yeah.
How do you land that job?
Yeah, you wait. I mean, in my case, I worked for years in Washington D.C. with Scripps Howard
As a cartoonist?
As a cartoonist, as a reporter, you know, wearing a lot of different hats. And ultimately, the Detroit News was one of the great conservative pages in the United States, and that position opened, and I was a good fit for it. I mean, in part because of my conservative views, and also because I jived with that town. I'm an auto guy. I like auto issues, and I could do a lot of writing there as well. It was a good fit for me.
So, what do you guys do with all the money you've earned? I mean, this is a rock star kind of position. So, I mean, I'm thinking the royalties, the swag, you know, the women, of course, and all the great merchandising sales that you've done.
You have us confused with comic strip cartoonist. That's where the money and the merchandising and the women are.
Right.
And the women. All right. So, out of all the comic strips, can we agree that Blondie Bumstead was the hottest of all female cartoon characters?
Well, what do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, I think she is hot.
Now, and the wife on Family Circus was pretty cute too, but
Yeah.
not the same. This is what cartoonists worry about. All right.
I tell you, I like the gal in Liberty Meadows. You ever seen Liberty Meadows? No. Liberty Meadows actually is a wonderful comic strip that got essentially killed out of newspapers. And again, I think this is why conservatives have a leg up in the humor department. And political correctness is a humor-killing left-wing thing.
Right.
And Liberty Meadows had a modern blondie, very buxom gal. And that comic strip essentially was killed because newspapers don't like cleavage anymore. They're too politically correct.
Beetle Bailey, Miss Buxley,
Yeah.
the secretary. I'm a lonely man. When it comes to expressing the viewpoints, do you have to run these things by your editor, or is it pretty much? I heard one cartoonist say the great thing about being a cartoonist is they can't edit me. They can refuse to run my editorial, my comic, but they can't say, you know, that nose isn't right or that punchline's bad. They either take it or they don't. Did you get into many fights in that?
Yes, I think it's always tough to train publishers, and so what you have to do, I guess I found out over the years, is you do cartoons from time to time that you know they won't go for, and then you can give
Why
them.
won't they go for it?
Well, there's many reasons, and there's a lot of publishers that I work for who really weren't used to cartoonists coming in and saying no, that You know, one publisher wanted me to change something, and that would have ruined the cartoon. And I said, well, let's just not run it. And I think he thought about firing me because that was just unheard of, that you would say, no, let's just don't run it, because I'm telling him how to run his business.
But it's your little piece of real estate. You know, they can say whether you're open for business, but it's your real estate. What about from the community? Have you ever had people with? I know with columnists, there's a lot of hatred or glamour. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's a great columnist." I mean, I think of Mike Litwin here in Denver. People love him or they hate him.
Yeah.
Do the pitchforks ever come out for you?
I've had a few. Have you had protests in front of the building? I've had a few. And
over what? Give me an example.
Well, one of them was Americans with Disability Act. I did a cartoon where he had a Jason-like character walking through an office, you know, with a chainsaw, and the employer said I had to hire him because, you know, it was Americans with Disability. Well, it made it through the editor and publisher, but the next day we had a lot of protesters in wheelchairs and everything because they thought I was saying that handicapped people or differently abled people were monsters, which wasn't my intent at all. It was just the force of government saying you have to hire people, and it seemed to me like it took a bit of freedom away from employers.
And there is. I mean, that's a difficult thing about satire. I mean, it's not just cartoonists. I think it's satirists in general. I mean, because you're dealing with metaphor, you're dealing with extreme interpretations of issues in order to get your point across. There are a lot of people who don't understand satire. I was at a conference of editors once and said the most complaints we get on a year-to-year basis are from cartoons, are from satire.
Really?
Because there's so many people that just don't get it. They don't understand hyperbole. They don't understand metaphor. And they take things literally. And, you know, I mean, I think, Chuck, the reason we get into this business is the element of danger. I mean, I had death threats against me from the LaRouche. Yeah, from the LaRouche people. Look at these poor
cartoons?
Yeah, look at these poor Norwegian cartoonists. They've all had to take change of identities and go into hiding because they dared to caricature the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
It's not the merchandising, it's the danger. That's why we do it.
Talk to me a little bit about the left-leaning editorial cartoonists. I mean, I could probably count conservative editorial cartoonists probably on one hand. I mean, there's you two, there's Ramirez, I can't remember the other ones.
McCoy, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, so they're out there, but not much. And why is that?
Well, that's journalism in general. I mean, there are not that many cartoonists left, really. When I got into the trade 25 years ago, there were 300 staff cartoonists. Today, there's 60.
Is there 60 now?
Yeah.
These are people who had a job, just kind of like, I'm the newspaper columnist. Every paper has a newspaper columnist. Every paper has an editorial columnist, 300 of them. What are they doing now?
Yeah, I think Henry said it right. Journalism, by and large, attracts social engineer people, and they're wanting to get into
I've always found, though, that they never admit to that. They don't see it. There's almost like we're trying to convince an alcoholic he's an alcoholic. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, because, we go through this editorial process, and so if I do something that's off, you know, my editor catches it. Well, he's a liberal too, so, you know.
Yeah, I think they see it, but they really pretend not to see it, and that's really frustrating to me. I would hope that people would be more honest about their spin, and it really bothers me because we're in the opinion business. We can have an opinion, but when you see a reporter spinning, it just really bugs me, but that's always been there.
That's the majority culture. The majority culture is liberal, and I think the majority culture thinks that it's centrist until such time as they encounter somebody like us, and then that intolerance comes out. But as I say, I think we've had a great run of late. I mean, I first became aware of political cartoons in the 70s with Richard Nixon, and I know liberal cartoonists had a ball with the Watergate era. And then when Clinton came along, I think conservative cartoonists, and now on into the Obama years. I mean, these are rich veins of comic ore for us right now.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. The days of Richard Nixon. I mean, the guy was born to be drawn in caricature.
Yes,
Who am I thinking of? Tip O'Neill, the
Yeah.
Speaker of the House. I mean, when he died, editorial cartoonists just cried and cried. He was the
Right.
perfect guy to draw. How do you come up with a caricature of somebody? When I did my comic strip, I could make my own characters, and they didn't have to look like anybody except I wanted, however I wanted to look. You've got to do people, and they've got to be recognizable.
I guess I think they evolve as you draw them. The first thing I look for is the shape of the face and where the eyes are in the head, and then you draw everything else that can be exaggerated, more exaggerated. And I think they sort of develop as you progress with the character. Obama's changed quite a bit over the 3 years.
Yeah,
Too bad Obama hasn't changed over the 3 years.
yeah, I know he's getting worse. I like to use the analogy of Snoopy and Peanuts. You look, I think as an editorial cartoonist, you start with a much more of a likeness, so your audience recognizes who you're drawing. Go back to the early Snoopy panels, Peanuts panels. Snoopy looks a lot like a dog. You look at the later Snoopy. He doesn't look. I mean, he's this big nose. The eyes are both on the same side of the face. He's become
Snoopy.
he's become Snoopy. He's become shorthand for a dog. He's become a character, and I think that's what happens with politicians. Is we caricature them over time. They start as a likeness, and then we subtly adopt the shorthand. In the case of Obama, I think the ears get bigger and bigger. In the case of Jimmy Carter, he got smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, cartoonist, as he shrunk in office. And so over
Really?
time, he became
McNally
reduced to
was
this tiny
brutal at
little
that, yeah.
childlike figure with big lips. And that was it.
And you think that was because cartoonists felt that he wasn't a powerful president?
Yeah, and that's
Even liberal cartoonists.
yeah, and that's caricature. I mean, that's what caricature does, is I think brings out the inner character. It's not just a likeness, but it brings out the inner character. And Jimmy Carter shrank in office.
What about George W.? I mean, that was people loved the cartoons of the left. He was there every day. Did his character change?
Well,
8 years.
Yeah, in my case, again, the shorthand became these two narrow, beady eyes, big upper lip. What was helpful with George W. Bush is because he's a pretty good-looking guy, really. And this is a problem with the television
problem,
age.
yeah.
Because all these politicians have to look good for television.
Anything you want to tell us?
No, nothing,
I mean, it's okay.
Nothing personal there.
It's a PBS station. We're fine with that kind of stuff.
But we already had his dad,
Yeah.
right? And we knew his mom, and so we sort of knew where the face came from. And so I think George W. was a little easier to draw, but it's tougher with the modern politicians. They're better looking because of TV.
Is there a problem because you guys were in local papers, so you do local issues, which are so terrific. Local politicians, the governor, the mayor, whoever it is, local issues that people know, but you're not getting any extra money for that. So do you tend to do national stuff in hopes that other newspapers and magazines are going to pick you up?
Yeah, I think when I was working as a staff cartoonist, I would, on Saturdays, I'd run a weekend review, and it would have a number of panels on the different local issues, and that became a pretty popular thing locally, but it allowed me to do more national stuff during the week. And so I think I don't know about you, Henry, but I was doing maybe 5 local and 5 national cartoons a week.
I'm all local for the Detroit News. I do both. I do 12 cartoons a week. So I do 6 cartoons for the Detroit News on local issues, and I do 6 cartoons for my national syndicate clients. So I'm a busy guy.
Yeah,
but that's where the business has gone, right? I mean, now that you have these mega national journals like the Wall Street Journal and National and the New York Times who can deliver on your doorstep at 6 a.m. Our market really is local now.
We were talking before this. When I was cartooning and I was selling it to newspapers, and I got up to about 50 newspapers that carried
that's great.
B Street. Yeah, but I sold them for like $5 a week, so it kept me in poverty for years. And I remember having to go, you do this thing, you bring it down to the guy, he photographs it, it gets reduced, you bring it to some photocopier place and try to get a copy of it, just shove it in an envelope, and I was always late, so I had to FedEx it to some place, which cost me twice as much as I made on the cartoon. Now it's different. You press a button, and anybody who wants it gets it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just amazing. The technology now is just so fast. It's amazing.
Does anybody draw on the computer? I know you color on the computer, but you still draw with ink, good old-fashioned ink, right?
That's right.
Is there anybody who draws?
I think Mike Keefe draws on the computer sometimes. He's a techie guy here in Denver, and I don't know but Mike's he did lots on the computer, I think.
Yeah. It's doable now. I mean, if your computer's high-powered enough, I don't have computers that are high-powered enough to keep up with my drawing. I draw very, very fast. I draw sort of in a New Yorker style, very freehand style. So I draw fast, and I haven't found a tablet that can keep up. Plus, I just like the interaction of a nib and a brush on paper. But all the coloring, yeah, I do on.
So you like a nib,
Photoshop,
and you thought George Bush was a good-looking guy.
Yeah, you're.
Is there anything you want to tell us? All right, bringing it back. When you syndicate,
coming out of the closet here, John, you got me.
When you syndicate a comic, all right, you have a good one. The one we just showed of Michael Moore, I just love that one. Eat the rich, eat the 1%.
Eat the fat cats.
Yeah, eat the fat cats. And so that's obviously a. You got this great one of Michael Moore, Eat the Fat Cats, and you're going to send it out to the syndicate. What do you get for that? I mean, it takes. I mean, I'm assuming you made $5,000 off of that one cartoon, right?
No, it's just gravy. It really is gravy at this point. In part because the market isn't as competitive anymore. Right?
Seriously, what did you get paid per cartoon, or do you just get a?
It's a subscription fee. So a newspaper out there is subscribing to me. I've got about 30 clients around the country now. Used to have 70. There's just fewer newspapers these days.
Right.
So I've got about half the number of clients I had a decade ago, and they pay a per week subscription fee and run what they want.
The syndicates usually take half to market you, and then they send you whatever they want. No, they send you half.
So at the end of the month, you have enough to buy more ramen? Is that? Talk to me a little bit about the death of the newspaper, because the death of the newspaper is a real thing. Here in Colorado, we're seeing the shrinking newspapers.
Yes.
The Rocky has gone, and I lament that every day. The Denver Post is not the same as it was when it had competition. It's smaller. The comic sections, you now need a microscope to be able to actually read the comic section. There's what, 60 staff cartoonists now, you said, around the nation, when
that's all that's left.
When there was hundreds and hundreds. When does it go away, and do cartoons translate to the internet? I mean, is that where it's going to go? And I don't know how anybody gets paid.
Well, I think that's what we don't know either. I think being syndicated is very helpful, because you still have an audience, and really, you don't go into editorial cartooning to get paid. I would do it for free.
Now you say you do it for free after you're retired. That was nice. Good move.
When I started out at the Colorado Springs Sun, I walked in the office and I said I could do local cartoons for them, 3 a week, and they could pay me $15 for any one that they ran. And that's how the door opened for me. They started running them, and then they wanted me on staff, and that's how that happened.
But I mean, it really is. It's a fascinating time we're going through. I mean, really, this is the second American print revolution. The first was the drum press in the early 19th century, the introduction of the penny press, when you can actually start to pump out thousands of newspapers. And we're going through the second print revolution right now with the internet, and people are trying to figure it out. There's a lot of flux, and it's hurt newspaper cartoonists because the daily newspaper is going away. At the same time, it's opening up a lot of opportunities for people. There's a wonderful duo called Jib Jab that does animated cartoons online, and they're entrepreneurs. I mean, they bring people to that website. They actually have a business model. They make good money doing cartoons and then licensing with what they do. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for new models out there.
Those are animators.
Those are animators.
Computer animators. It's a little bit different than the stagnant one-panel cartoon, and I would hate for those to go away, but they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk at cartoonist conventions about animating your cartoons. There are some cartoonists that have done that.
Cartoonist conventions? Do they really have enough room at the Motel 6 to have a cartoonist convention?
Well, it's
smaller.
getting down to that. It
Yeah,
really
we all meet in a
is.
closet now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again with the closet with you, Henry.
I'm coming out, John. but it is. I mean, it's the same for writers. I mean, I'm a publisher now. I've launched an internet news site, Michigan View, because there are tremendous opportunities to do daily commentary now on the web. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
All right, we've got about a minute left. Tell me, what's the future? I mean, I know that you're now supposedly in retirement, but you're still popping out cartoons. I see them everywhere. Where's it going to be? Where are the cartoonists going to be in a decade? Real quickly.
I don't know. I think that what you were talking about, they're going to be on the internet, and there's going to be subscribers. They're going to be selling some ad space with it, maybe. And I'm just guessing about that, but I don't know. I think they're a disappearing breed.
Well, I've heard for the last 15 years now that the panel cartoon was going to go away, and it hasn't. I mean, if you're a talented panel cartoonist, there's a job for you. There may be fewer jobs, but it is a well-developed art, and
I could have made a living at it if only I could have drawn or spelled, or if I was funny, it would have been a very, very different thing. Henry, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Nice job.
Chuck. Hey, join me late nights on 850 KOA. Go to independenceinstitute.org for more, and we'll see you next week.